All right. Hello, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. My name is Frank Lavinia, and with me is Andy Leonard, who I still need to recreate a lower third for you.
It's all groovy. All groovy, brother.
Just like that new intro, right?
That's right. It had a little bit of like metal going with the techno there. I was banging a little.
It sounds a bit like the theme to the IT crowd.
Yeah, yeah,
Had a little bit of that vibe to it. So I actually mixed
yeah.
that up early this morning. So
Excellent.
I was getting tired of using the built-in ones to restream.
Yeah, it's all
So
good. But today is our first day where it is just me and Christy here at Casa de Leonard. The Stevie Ray's actually on vacation. He graduated school 2021. Yeah, he graduated in May of 2021. Tried to go in the Navy, couldn't get in. Long story. They he His back is too crooked. So
uh,
he went out like a week later and got a job as an electrician. He's been doing that for almost a year now. And he decided, since he didn't get a senior trip, that him and his friends, like there's like seven of them, they put their money together. They rented a place down at Topsail Island there off of in the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
nice.
Yeah, they went down Saturday and they've had a little bit of drama. It hasn't been anything abnormal for them. There seems every time they go somewhere, they went somewhere New Year's Eve, there seems to be a trip to the ER involved. I'll
Oi.
just leave everybody. Everybody's good both times. Everybody's been good both times that's happened. But but yeah, they're down there, and our younger children. Emma started school yesterday, and Riley started today. So we're just hanging out here, having a big time.
Wow. So you guys go back to school early, it seems.
Yeah, they get out in May, so it's
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool. We're
so the dog days of August. They're in the county's air conditioning.
nice, nice.
Yeah,
That's
and we
pretty cool.
bandwidth.
You came in a little clearer today, so I was wondering what that was about.
That's what's up. Yeah.
Cool. Um,
So what's going on with
so
you and your gang at Casa de la Vina?
well, we go with the francophone thing, Chez Levine. So, but the kids are one kid's in camp, and the other kid is just hanging out playing video games this week. They don't go back to school till after Labor Day.
Wow.
So
Well, see, when I was growing up, that's how it was, and I
yeah,
mean, I grew up one county over. It wasn't that big of a deal here. So, but yeah, it was. And we'd get out in like mid-June. That would
yeah,
be
that's about
our,
what we did too.
10th, somewhere between the 10th and the 20th of June. And either way, but you got like it's like you said, it's about a month difference there between the two. And I think the kids like this a little bit better. They're kind of getting restless with summer about August, and it's not fun outside when the humidity is 120%, and the heat index is nearing 200 degrees. I'm exaggerating, however, it
I
feels
think
that
the
way.
heat index is like 106 here in Maryland today.
I wouldn't be
So
surprised. I don't know what ours is, but yeah, it's hot.
we're at some elevation, so it's not as bad. We're
Gotcha.
probably it it's a little drier, but not. It's still
Yeah.
miserable. Like I'm still inside. Like you know.
I want to say we're around 500, 400, 500 feet up. So not
Yeah,
as
well, I think
much
we're
elevation as you.
650 according to my phone. So 680 according to the county. But
There you go.
so who knows who's right?
Yeah. But I know you've got some cool stuff going on. You haven't just been making snappy new intro videos.
No, not doing that. We've for those that are watching, we've introduced a virtual version of Bailey visually. So
Nice.
she took over the the quantum show,
Nice.
and she's getting a lot of traffic, a lot more traffic, I think, than I get. So, just a bit
What's that?
jealous. People like Bailey. What can I say? What can I say? It's kind of like so. So it turns out that I was got down a YouTube hole the other day talking about Max Headroom, um, and Max Headroom was an American character created by British people as a caricature of American TV presenters. So Bailey's like the inverse of that, isn't she?
Yeah,
Like to
but
a
not, and not a caricature really.
not a
She's
character.
just a nice
No,
British AI lady. And you and I both. I think you hooked me
she's
on
like
this
a
by sending me.
snarky version of Emma Watson. That's how I describe her.
That could work. And you sent me a link to a YouTube channel, the Y Files, and
Yes.
I hope you're proud of yourself because I've lost tons of. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have caught you while you're drinking. I've lost a lot of minutes there. Usually it's during like my lunch break and stuff. I'll go downstairs and watch YouTube on TV. I just watched the episode where he was talking about is the moon hollow. I think that was the
Oh,
latest.
I think that's the newest one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
sent that to you because like I went down the Y Files rabbit hole. So for those that are wondering what the heck are Frank and Andy talking about, there's a YouTube
right.
channel called the Y Files, WHY Files.
WHY. Right.
I think it's like a takeoff on the X Files because he covers kind of like unexplained kind of stuff, and he gives kind of like this is what people say, this is what the science says, that sort of thing. And my favorite part of the show isn't the guy; it's the
It's
character that he has.
Hecklefish.
It's Hecklefish. So he has a guy.
Hecklefish is awesome.
Hecklefish is my favorite, and he kind of if you listen to the Jerky Boys, he sounds a bit like the Saul Rosenberg character, but he's got a straight up not just New York accent, but like kind of like a Queens accent, not Queens like Queens New York accent. So he sounds like this. He kind of sounds a bit if Saul Rosenberg character and Jordan Belfort had a baby, it would sound like Hecklefish. And
He
like
is Hecklefish is epic in the moon
Heckle-
is hollow.
oh my god, like there's
He's
another
epic.
one, the Edgar Casey. one's
Anytime
pretty
the
funny.
moon comes up, anytime the
Right?
moon
Oh
is mentioned,
yeah,
he has a line, and the guy just goes with it. It's excellent.
I love the way they play off each other. That was
Yep.
when I saw that, and I was like, we got to do something more like that with Bailey, because
Yes.
right, prior to that, and me getting my hands on some new software,
Yeah.
Bailey just did the beginning, the intros and the outros. So that's kind of. So I was like, well, what if we developed her like a character, kind of like that, and so that's kind of where we're going with that. In case you're wondering, and
So-
as we do more video,
I have to interject here. When Frank says
Sure.
we, means him. He's been doing all this.
I have a
He's being
blast. with it.
modest.
We're I think I showed you a demo reel of Qubit, which is an idea that coming up with. Just have to find a less annoying voice. But
Qubit's cool. That's got potential written all over it, and I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you. Their new word.
you can agree with
Agree
me.
with you about the voice.
Well, the funny, you were like, I didn't even listen to the whole thing. Like,
The voice was just like chalkboard scratching. It was bad.
yeah, I have to
I
dial
get,
it
I get
down.
what you were doing. Yeah,
I have to dial it down
you'll
a bit.
find something. Yeah.
Let's see if I can do a little experiment now. Actually,
He's going to do a voice. Everybody, keep your
Hello.
hands inside the vehicle.
How does that sound?
That sounds neat. I like it.
That's like the auto tune type thing.
It's a little sing-songy down a cave. That's I like both aspects of that.
speaking of cave, I'm at the new house, and the new house's basement is very large.
That's it.
All right, so I turned that off. The cool thing is that now I can, in a live stream, add kind of rim shots. So when I tell a joke, like, pretty convenient like that. So,
we had that before, but you were doing it through the Stream Deck or something?
no, it was through Zencaster. So we don't use Zencaster
Oh,
anymore.
right.
When we do the live streams, we use Restream, and then when we do the recordings, we tend to use Microsoft Teams now,
Gotcha.
because there were some. Zencaster is an awesome product, but they had some. I haven't tried it lately. Supposedly they've rebuilt a lot of stuff, added some stuff, but when it worked really well. When it didn't work, the audio sync would be off, and the editing process became more time consuming than it should be.
Makes
So
sense.
that's why we kind of we dropped from that and switched to Teams because Teams records everything warts and all, which is actually kind of easier to work with in post production. I do
Sure.
wish there was a way to isolate the different channels, like like Zencaster did, because when we recorded Rupesh, his audio was a little wonky at times.
Yeah.
And when it's all kind of meshed together, there's only but so much I can do.
Right.
But again, we tend to optimize for speed and quality.
Right.
So when you mess with that formula, that messes with the oh, here we go. I can say this. It with the schedule.
Yes.
So I can say all I want now, and I don't have to worry about our clean ratings from iTunes because they don't like it when I say.
Ah.
I love that. So and I also have a Stream Deck now. So I have the Stream Deck now where I can press a button and it does that. So there was actually a flash sale on Amazon because I have a Stream Deck, but God only knows where it is. I've been looking for it for about 2 months
It's
now.
in one of the boxes.
One of the boxes. So,
Yes.
but enough chit chat and such.
Yes.
I want to thank the listeners first of all for making season 6 already a success. The ratings are still stellar. Like it's like we didn't take an unplanned hiatus.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you for sticking with us. And if you're watching live, thank you for that too. But I'm going to talk about some of the interesting things that we discussed when we had Justin on the show, Justin Harrison. So if you haven't listened to show 302, spoiler alert, I guess. We had an interesting conversation. This was one of those things where I got a lot of feedback on it, like just the concept of the idea. And it kind of, one person said, hey, this is really creepy, and it could take advantage of the people who are vulnerable because of grief. Although I can see that happening, Justin made me, I wouldn't say a believer, but definitely not as skeptical. I was very much on the leaning more towards this is kind of awful. To talking to him, I'm on the fence slightly on the other side, saying this is interesting, has potential for good and potential for harm.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy.
I had a similar reaction. Yeah, I had a similar reaction. He moved the needle for me on this as well. It's hard to compare, how we both felt about it, but I think we were pretty close in our assessment. And that came out of a thing we talked about. I think it was an article we read or something a couple years ago.
Yeah, so I was
did that. Yeah.
Doing some digging through the data-driven archives, which
did we talk about it on data-driven?
We have this. Not exactly. So I did a data point actually 5 years ago.
My
almost
goodness, it was
to the
that
day.
long ago. Wow.
Crazy, right? Almost to the day. It was mid-August, and it was basically. I saw a story on Wired where this guy had captured his dad's communications, and I guess as he died, as the dad knew he was going to die, so he kind of captured his voice and stuff like that, and he's able to talk to his dad.
Right.
And there's another story about a lady who's the CEO and founder of a company called Replica, and it's their tagline is the AI app that becomes you. And it's very interesting how this has kind of come up again because saw this story literally like right after we recorded with Justin. And it was basically I with Elon Musk, you never know what's true and what's hype and what's kind of true versus what's aspirational. But this came across. So this isn't the exact source of the story.
Yes.
But it's a similar story where he basically said, someone asked him, if you could upload your brain to the cloud and talk to a virtual version of yourself, would you be buddies? And Elon Musk responded, already did it.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting idea because I was thinking about this, and as I drive the kid to and from camp or just driving around doing errands, I tend to have these deep thoughts, which I think would surprise people that I have deep thoughts. But I think it's an interesting notion. Well, thank you. What was interesting is that the notion of so I think we were talking about this in the after show in the after green room with Justin, where like I took a picture of the kids or something like that, or when my youngest picked up his grandfather's guitar, I was going to text my mom and send her a picture, and I realized, oh, I can't, you
Yeah.
know. And I think it's just a natural thing of grief. Like with my dad, like I know, like it's been 13, 14 years,
Right.
like but with my mom, it's been, I mean, less than a year,
Right.
and and then it got me thinking, like, well, I guess I could have done a chatbot version of her, but I don't know. Like, I don't think that would help me. Like, I can just imagine, like, we have these imaginary conversations. What would your grandfather say about that? You know what I mean? I think what Justin creates electronically, I think we kind of do in our imagination anyway.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I'm in agreement with you there on it, Frank. And it was I remember going through. It's almost like that first year of after someone has passed,
Right.
and went through that with my dad. Went through that with my brother, and it's just it moments like that. I had that very same thing happen. Um, all of us brothers call each other. We all have children. We're all dads. We say, Happy Father's Day on Father's Day.
Right.
And, if not a call, then a text. And I picked up my phone and I actually, I went to Glenn's, my last chat with him, and I was getting ready to tell him Happy Father's Day. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. And
Yeah.
it kind of went in. Please, if you're interested in this, go listen to the show with Justin. I think it was a good show regardless. And even if you walk away from it going, never, I don't ever want to do that. That's maybe the show will help you with that. But that was, one part of it was, and part of that conversation was, what's the impact of this on the grief cycle? Specifically, does it help or does it kind of interrupt? And it was
Yeah.
I thought that was a good part of the conversation.
It really was, and he was honest. Like he wasn't
was.
BSing us, right? He wasn't bulling us. For the record, I didn't even say the word. Like if you're watching the video, I didn't even say the word.
He's just pushing the button, folks.
And just pushing the button because I have a shiny new toy. But in all seriousness, like he didn't BS us. Like he was like, this is, he's like, this may not be for everyone.
Right.
I respect that because I when you hear his story and why he's building it, what it means to him, it makes sense. And I think for some people,
Yep.
I think it could be very therapeutic.
Yep.
I don't think we know enough. There's not enough data yet, right? It takes X number of years to get X number of years of data, and I don't think we have that yet. Now, arguably, the founder of Replica, which they're actually in the news again of late too, which is kind of interesting. The timing of all this.
That is interesting.
Let's see if I can make this window bigger. They're back in the news, and I think a lot of this is probably prompted by what happened at Google with their Lambda chatbot,
Right.
where the guy said it was sentient, and I think the notion of this comes up again. So they think their customers think that it's sentient. And it's very easy. Yeah, that's her name, Eugenia Cuda. If you're watching, Eugenia, I'm butchering your name. 1, 2. We'd love to have you on the show. But she had done something. She had done something similar to what Justin's doing a little earlier. And I don't know. I know I don't know if they're competitors. I don't know if they do different things. But she had a friend of hers had died, and she kind of took all the text correspondence and made a chatbot that trained based on that. And I mean, it seemed like for her it was therapeutic. But what's interesting is a lot of their customers they think that they're talking to a conscious entity.
Yeah, and that also came up. I keep referring back to the show, but it did come up in the show.
Right.
And along with the Google engineer who thought that the AI mentioned, and I love the way the conversation just. By the way, we don't rehearse.
No,
in
that
case
takes
you were
planning.
wondering.
that takes
Yeah,
too much planning.
that's
Just the fact that
crazy
we
talk.
can organize 3 people's schedules is
That's
enough
enough
on top
planning
of everything
for
else.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of kind of the dynamics that grew out of that very organically were, okay, if you could make an AI, and I think we were talking about the Google AI at that point, if you could make an AI think like a human, if that was possible, and it may be one day, it's like, why would you do that? And that was one thing, and we had some good back and forth on it.
Oh,
I
we had
think I
great
was the
back
one
and
who asked
forth.
that.
That was
Yeah,
the most mind expanding show we've had in a long time, I would
it,
say.
definitely not taking anything away from
No,
our
no, no.
other
But
awesome guests, but yes, yes, it
how
was
often
because it
do
was
you
very
get to
philosophical.
ponder? It was very philosophical, and I
Yeah,
love that stuff.
me
And
too. Yeah,
it was fascinating because if he go and apparently he's heard these objections before because he knows he can say verbatim what the dictionary says about consciousness or sentience or self awareness.
right, right,
And we got down to the point where technically any computer that's connected to a network knows that it exists and it's part of a much
right.
larger whole. In a sense, that's sentient. In a sense, the microwave that I bought from Walmart also, depending on your definition of sentience, is sentient, and it's not a fancy one, right? It's like the basic, model because we
Very
broke
true.
the one in the new house. Not having a good couple of weeks with the home appliances here. My Keurig broke this morning, and I like without Keurig machines. I know coffee fashionistas will balk at this. I'll get hate mail for that, but there's nothing simpler than first thing in the morning, put cup in, press button, you have coffee. Doesn't have to taste good,
I
just has
can't
to get
argue
the
with
motor
that.
running. Just have to get the
Can't
motor
argue with
running.
that, Frank, at all. I have to
So,
go. I use a French press, by the way,
oh,
and yeah. So I'm snooty when it comes for a guy with that sounds like I do, right? I'm pretty snooty when it comes to coffee, but yeah, that's a bad run, Frank. I'm sorry to hear you've got 2 devices down, and one of them is the coffee machine is definitely more important than the microwave. So
ooh, that's a close one. I would say if bad things come in threes, as long as the HVAC holds out, that's all I care
okay,
about. Everything else can
I agree
fail, but
with
the
you there.
HVAC has to stick around. Although, not the computers though. But
But going turning back to the show just for a minute with Justin, the I think I'm the one who raised that objection because I've always thought that way. It's like, why would, and I don't mean anything against people. It's like we're different things and we're good at different things. Why would you want to you're basically trying to make a computer um, do something that it's inherently bad at. And at the same time, you're taking it away from doing a job that it's really good at and we're not good at, right? Doing very repetitive, binary, computations and stuff. So, and
I mean,
it
it's an interesting philosophical debate because then what's a person?
yeah,
Like what is consciousness? What is sentience? And we get into this whole rabbit hole there,
yeah,
which is an awesome rabbit hole to go down, right? Like I
it
mean,
is.
dolphins
Yeah,
have bigger brains than us. Elephants have bigger brains than us.
right.
If consciousness, sentience, or whatever makes humans unique is based on brain size, well, we're kind of third in line, third, maybe fourth in line in the animal kingdom. So
True.
what is that? What makes us one of the things that blew my mind was he's like, well, they may very well be just like us in the sense of being intelligent and self-aware. Granted, those
True.
terms are very nebulous, but they're kind of stuck in a hunter-gathering phase, like humans were for a number of years.
True.
And
True.
that blew my mind. It was like, I mean, that makes sense, right? And so what you know, Guns, Germs, and Steel, awesome book, by the way.
Great book. Yeah.
Talks about the difference, that there's a kind of the spark that gets people away from the hunter-gatherer society, and then helps them build guns and germs and steel. It's a fascinating read, but I mean, wouldn't that be fascinating that these animals are kind of stuck for reasons large and small in kind of the
Yeah.
hunter-gathering phase? It's fascinating.
Definitely is. And yeah, go. I'd encourage you to watch the show. But if you get into it a few minutes and you go, "Yep, this isn't for me," then turn it off. You know?
Well, I mean, it's even if it's not for you,
Yeah.
Because I think it was helpful that you and I were both a little skeptical of the idea.
True. True.
And like he kind of, I wouldn't say he made me a believer, but he made me less of a skeptic. You know, I think for some
Yeah.
people this could help them. This could help people kind of process that. And I think one of the interesting ideas. This is what blew my mind when I saw the story about Elon Musk. Is, you know, one of the things that came up was, well, what if we got the greatest minds in history and somehow managed to do a virtual version of them and
Yeah.
have them talk with each other? What would that be like? You know, and it was like that in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Data, one of the characters, would have a poker game with Isaac Newton, Stephen Hawking,
Einstein.
and Einstein,
Yeah.
and that would be a cool table to be at. You know,
Or
I
just
mean,
stand,
just for the
fly on the wall.
right, just
You
like,
know?
you know, fly on the wall or whatever. Which it'd be interesting to have that. You know, what would they talk about? You know, and again, you know, because of reasons like, you know, we wouldn't know. We only know what was been preserved by history, right? We
Right.
don't know what their innermost thoughts are and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be a pure copy, but it would be an interesting thing to kind of see happen. But it's also interesting that Elon Musk has a copy of himself and he talks to it. Now, most people talk to themselves, whether they vocalize it or kind of think about, you know, should I do that? Should I do that? You
Right.
know, should I get the extra large taco or just the small taco? You know, that sort of thing. Um, or, you know, like me today, should I try to fix this Keurig or should I get a new one?
Yeah.
So
Well, everything is figure outable, Frank.
everything is figure outable. Also an
That's a
awesome book.
reference to a book. Yeah.
That is an awesome book.
Kind of thinking along these lines. I've had a couple of references pop into my head about books, and I don't know if the one series is on Audible or not. But so you and I are huge fans of The Expanse, and I got to
Mhm.
shout out to you, Frank, for sending me the Rocinante. For my birthday, it's a little fold-up Rocinante thing. Awesome. I don't have it put together yet. That's me being a slacker. We're huge fans of The Expanse. In fact, I learned just last week that Frank's computers are all named after ships from the Rocinante. And I wonder if I'm going to butcher this name, but the Weeping Somnambulist?
I don't have that one. I don't have that one. So
Gosh, all right, I'm going to beat you to it.
the big rig with the 6 monitors, that's Behemoth, because
Excellent.
Rocinante is my laptop, my personal laptop. I have Donager,
Nice.
and I have if I do get a new laptop, because my current laptop it's failing for reasons. This is probably going to be the third thing to fail, honestly. Just
Is this the
because,
one with the bad joints, the solder joints?
yeah, the bad solder joints. So turns out that the factory. And this is a known problem with Lenovo P51S. But there was a backup way to put another hard drive in, so that's what I did. But I think there's something wrong with the power switch now, so I have to charge it. Fortunately, it charges through USB-C.
Okay.
So the native power point is gone. And then when I was somewhere, I was out getting the tires fixed or something like that, and I picked up the laptop by the side, and the whole thing blue screen. And then I did it again, and it blue screened again. I was like, oh, so
That sounded like
Razorback.
solder joints.
Yeah, it's probably more solder joints. I hesitate to get another Lenovo, although I didn't pay for the laptop, so it was a cast off from somebody else.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
Those
steal
things.
it or anything. I didn't do anything Jersey like, but uh, so the next one will probably be Razorback and then Whipping Somnambulist.
Okay.
But this
That
is
sounds
I'm
awesome.
talking to you now today. If you're watching the stream, you notice I'm in a different angle. I'm talking now from Anubis, which was one of the stealth ships, and it's got one of those funky kind of. It's a gamer rig. Because I don't play games, but gamer rigs are perfect for video editing and stuff. It's got the weird kind of stealth ship shape.
So we, all of us, I think, follow the authors on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter hardly any compared to what I used to be, and but my son Stevie, he's on there a lot. He's also an Expanse fan, and he pointed out to me a tweet exchange that happened. Gosh, I don't know, probably
Is this
9
the
months
NASA thing?
No, they were accused of ripping off, I think it was Larry Niven, and they with the End Space piece,
Okay.
and Niven did Ringworld, among other things. And one of the authors responded and said, "No, we're ripping off Frederick Pohl, which is who he ripped off. So we're all stealing from the same guy." And I'd never heard of Frederick Pohl before.
Is this
So
the destination is our stars, or stars our destination?
I don't. I think he did. He may have done that. I'm not positive that he did the Heechee saga, and
Okay.
this was like in the '60s. I want to say maybe the early
That sounds
'70s,
about right. Yeah.
and it was like pivot. And it's if you can get. I mean, the guy wasn't wrong. They were ripping off Frederick Pohl. With a lot of the ideas from The Expanse. And I'm about halfway through the last of a series of 4 audiobooks. I got distracted because it's all your fault. You sent me the new Uncle G, Grant Cardone audiobook only, I think, at Audible, that he did, the 10X Mentor. So there was that, and it's some interesting AI things in there, especially specifically about storing consciousness and not just of humans. So there was that piece that was in there. And then I've been reading a series of books, and it's still, you're my source, Frank, for all of my books. Give me this email, and it had at the bottom, it had an ad for a bunch of books. And it turned out that I had been buying coffee from the authors of the books for months. I drink Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Oh, very cool.
Coffee. And you sent me a thing from them because you knew I was just starting to drink their coffee. I love their coffee. And I do Just Black. That's the coffee I get. And it turns out that the owners of that company, a lot of people that work there are kind of a community. I don't want to say too much about it, but one's a former Green Beret. And now I think he's one of the leaders. He's definitely one of the founders of that. But they also wrote a series of books about how things could go sideways in the U.S. specifically. Mm-hmm. And it's called Black Autumn. And the way they wrote the books, I admire a lot. They wrote the first 4 or 5, I think, about the first 17 days of, just a series of fortunate events causing bad things to happen in the U.S. And then they wrote another set of books. I want to say 4 of those that are about like the next couple of months, and they're from different perspectives. There's pockets all over, they're going. And then the last one, which I'm almost finished with, is they went out and got a bunch of other authors to write fiction. Some for the very first time, pretty good writing, all the way around, and they did other little snippets. So they're building it. Some of them have already written post-apocalyptic fiction. They got experienced authors, and then some who wrote for the very first time. It's not going to knock your socks off if you don't enjoy post-apocalyptic fiction. I go through spells. I read all kinds of books. You know me, Frank. I read, all over. And I hadn't read any post-apocalyptic stuff in a couple of years. And when I saw that,
aside from the news, that's
me.
But not untrue.
You may be onto something there. But I went and read them, and I saw that they were on sale for like $30, I think, for the first 9 books. Crazy.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it was it struck me, and I was like, yeah, I think I'll go read those. And it took me a couple of months to read them with the little bit of time I had to read. Good books. One of the, I don't want to blow the plot, but one of them is about AI. And in that portion of the book, it's like book number 7 or 8 out of the 9. In that bit of the book, they talk about the reinforce the airplanes where the bullet holes are not. You remember that story?
Yes, that was from World War II, right?
Yeah, and it came from that piece, and it's an extrapolation of that into. I think that book was written around 2019 or so, and I don't want to blow everything, but I found this fascinating. The numbers that they were getting on the likelihood were around 10% or less. And when the data scientists explained it, she said, um, you count on, this was kind of that same sort of logic, whether bullet holes or not. You count on the machine not being able to predict the future. But if you run the numbers a trillion times, you get all of these hits, which are really misses. But you're almost looking for it. You're counting on the fact it can't guess the future, can't predict the future. So you look at the gaps, and those are the things you end up assigning these probabilities that may crack 10%. That most of them don't, and it ends up predicting the future. It counts on the fact that the future is unpredictable. That was a wild idea, I thought. I'm almost positive the authors didn't think it up, but I'd never heard that proposed before. And I wanted to ask you if you had. Have you ever heard that idea applied?
So the most fascinating thing I heard was, do you remember the movie War Games?
Yes.
I remember watching that as a kid, and one of the things that fascinated me about that was WOPR.
Yeah.
War Operations something. I forget what the acronym was, but it was basically there was a throwaway line in there, and ultimately that was Joshua, who was kind of the antagonist of the movie.
Yeah.
He spoiler alert, but I mean, honestly, 25, 40 years later. There was a line in there where they basically said WOPR's job was to run constantly simulations of nuclear war.
Right.
So that it can prepare, they can kind of prepare for any type of thing. And it turns out it was doing tens of thousands of simulations. And, I think that's analogous to how athletes practice, right? They don't practice because, but the more practice you do is that when something happens, your muscle memory or you kind of automatically can respond to it. And I think it's kind of the same thing. It's not exactly, I haven't read the books that you're talking about, but I imagine it's a similar thing where if you run enough simulations, one of the, you'll probably see a pattern emerge, and then one of, say, the top 3 to 5 patterns will end up happening.
Yeah.
There's always edge cases, right?
Definitely an interesting read. And I saw you pop up with the link to the data-driven book.
Yes, let me do that.
I want to pop over here real quick while you're doing that and
make sure it still works.
Yeah, well, I should do that, shouldn't I? TheDataDrivenBook.com. Let's see if that still works. Because it's a company that does the hosting and the redirects for me has been known to, I don't know, adjust things.
Well, I think when we started this, when we started this, the HTTPS was not a requirement.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when a lot of those things switched over, there were a lot of problems. I had a lot of problems with Frank's World and some problems with Data-Driven TV, and that sort of thing. But
so it's on Audible. It's on Audible. Black Autumn is the first. It's book 1, and it looks like it goes through all of them.
Nice.
Jeff Kirkham and Jason Ross, who are either the founders or two of the founders of Black Rifle Coffee Company. They're which if you like strong coffee, it's good. It's not Death Wish. I did that for a while, and then I'll never forget the look on my doctor's face when he said, "Your blood pressure's risen like 30 points in the last quarter. Have you changed anything?" And I said, "Yeah, I started drinking this other coffee." I said, "What's it called?" Death Wish. And that look was like, serious.
It's like he's heard this before.
Yeah. Anyway,
when I had it working,
go ahead.
When I had I got a deal on Amazon, Maud's Coffee.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty good, and I get the variety pack. It's actually pretty good.
Nice.
French roast from the coast, really good. The Kona coffee.
Nice.
I'm still in mourning for my Keurig machine.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if I had a chat bot of my Keurig machine. Or is that too soon?
I don't know.
See, that would be bad, because it'd be like, oh, hey, by the way, how about a nice hot cup of French roast from the coast? Oh, wait, I'm broken. You can't see, that's kind of the thing. I had a picture of my boys this past weekend, and I wanted to send to my mom, but I couldn't. And it was like, and I thought about this, like, well, I could send it to a bot, but I know what the bot is going to see that, and I could probably train it like these are the grandkids, and it would say, oh, there's my grandkids. Like, like it's kind of like, is that a function of that we're engineers, we know what happens behind the curtain, or would quote unquote a normie like be okay with
Yeah,
that? I don't know.
yeah, I
Like I
don't
really
either.
don't know, and I would be curious to what the listeners think. One guy who's one of my wife's college friends, he had the most colorful take of all, and I'll read it. I won't reveal his identity, but oh, and at least I found the story about Elon Musk at least. So let me paste
That's a
that
cool
over
story.
here.
I'd
It's
like to
another
know more.
story. Um, Page not found. Okay, I'll find it. Bear with me. All right. Bear with me. All
Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
this is what he said. I sent him a kind of a thing about this, and this is basically what I said was I sent him a link to it because we were talking at a kid's birthday party this weekend, and he's like, "Oh, like I said, oh, we're now." He goes, "How's the podcast?" I'm like, "Oh, we're in season 6." He goes, "Whoa, it's been that long," and I was like, "Yeah, the latest show that was going to go out that night, was about posthumous communication." And he looked at me like, "What?" I was like, "Basically, a chatbot." Um,
Yeah.
that kind of does this. And I described it, and he goes, and he's a guy that does not mince words, right? Like, not at all. And he goes, I call BS. I get that you can capture a conversational style. It's just algorithms, but no way it's the same person. And worse, it might cause harm. Um, I think conversational AI has a lot of interesting applications, but not this one.
Yeah.
you know but he goes, this could be some bizarre exploitation of sad people, and I know Alexa is doing something similar, but that's just awful too. So it's
Hmm.
interesting, the kind of he's a pessimistic kind of guy. He's very skeptical, so it
Sure.
I would be shocked if he had anything but that to say, but I can totally see where he's coming from, that this could be exploitive you know
Yeah. And I think I know for a fact I challenged him 2 or 3 times, and that probably as
hmm
much as I've challenged any of our guests. Just because he's there, I want to see how he reacts. And I'll say this: he didn't react. He responded, which I totally admire. And I wasn't poking at him to be controversial or adversarial, but I also wasn't holding any adversary back. And he got it. He picked up on it. And his background, I think, is psychology. So
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so he
I
was
mean,
able to read the room. You know,
he's a smart guy, and I think he
he
really is
is.
sincere about his mission. And his
I do
mission is
too.
to alleviate suffering related to grief.
Right.
And I
Oh,
think that's
him.
very noble. Hmm?
Yeah, we do. It is very nice. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, I
But
think
we
it's very
still owe
noble.
him a. We us on his podcast. He has a podcast.
Yes,
He
that's
wants us
right.
to come on his podcast, and we need to
That
go.
reminds me, I need to do that. I need to do that.
It's all good.
But no, I mean, I
But
think
yeah,
it's
we'll do
interesting
it.
because it's like I understand where he's going with that, but I'm not sure where that'll end up. Like, I, I like the idea. I like the idea that he wants to alleviate suffering from this. But there was a Buddhist. I heard a Buddhist story shortly after my dad died. This is a while ago, and it was this lady comes up to the Buddha and says something to the effect of, "Hey, can you bring my dead husband back to life?" And he just looked at her as like, "No, I can't do that." And then she ended up stalking him. I'm paraphrasing the story, so if you're a devout
Sure, sure.
Buddhist, sorry. I read this story in Vancouver, in a Vancouver hotel room 14 years ago, so details may be a bit fuzzy. Uh, but because they had copies of the Bible and some Buddhist text there.
Okay.
And so there was this thing where, eventually she bugged him so much. She goes, "All right, tell you what, I'll bring him back to life, but you have to bring me 3 grains of bread, or three crumbs of bread from 3 different houses, or 1 crumb of bread from each house, from 3 houses that have been affected or touched by death in any way." So she runs
Huh.
off, goes, apparently annoys the first people in the house, and then as she's about to knock on the second house, she kind of realized how foolish it was, and then she went back and apologized. And the message is that death is kind of just part of life.
Okay.
And for me, who was pretty hard in the grieving process when I read that, I
Yeah.
found peace in it. Like more of a stoic kind of peace. Like you just have to.
Right.
It sucks, but you have to move on.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean,
That's, I yeah, I'm with you there too. And I think that actually came up as well. We were talking about how time,
right.
the old adage is time heals all wounds, and it's like, yeah, not really. But with time,
Yeah, but
you
as I get
more
older,
practice.
as I
Right.
get older, healing is a different thing. You know,
And I
I
think that's where
separate.
we ended up. Yeah.
I mean, like I separated my shoulder when I was like 18,
Mm.
and it never bothered me again until like 10 years ago. Then it bothered me,
Goodness.
and then it's never really not stopped bothering me since I've re-injured it. So healing, healing is a different type of, you know, it's like that thing where you'll always have that little bit of ache.
Right.
It doesn't prevent you from doing anything necessarily,
Right.
but you're never gonna, I'll never pitch a fastball again,
Right. Right.
which is okay because I never did it before. But you get the analogy is that
I do.
your knee, like sometimes I had knee surgery 10 years ago, and that bothered me. It took about 5 years for that to heal. I would imagine that if I do something stupid again, that it won't ever really, because the doctor said never really truly healed, but healed well enough.
Gotcha.
I don't know. That's just my musing on it. But yeah, you're right, because time doesn't heal everything.
Right. And you
It gets
do
less
grow.
worse.
Yes. That's a great way to describe it. So wow, we covered an awful lot here.
Yeah,
Awful lot of
here's that
ground.
story, the original story I found.
Okay, yeah, there's Elon.
He confirms he already uploaded. He speaks to himself. I I think it's interesting that whether you love, hate, or despise him, or adore
Yeah.
him, it's an interesting thing. Like, why would he do this? Was this just kind of him? Let's try this and see what happens. Like, if I had a bot based on myself, would I gain any kind of extra insight? And I think that's kind of a digital version of the analog thing we already do when we have these conversations with ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what value
Yeah,
that has.
I don't know either, and I'm right with you on value. If I had more to, I might tinker with that idea, but these days, and I said this to a customer earlier today. I'm like, look, I got a list with dozens of things on it. I work on the top three. If you're not in the top three, I'm so
No,
love you,
I
mean it.
totally get it.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I
great,
totally get it.
great communication, great chat.
Yeah, sorry to go on the different tangents, but I highly recommend
No,
if you
it
haven't
was
listened to
awesome.
the show.
It was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the show?
I don't remember, and that's because I've done so. It's fallen way off the list. We did it. I do look forward to being on his podcast, though. I would imagine that he wants to challenge me back. I challenged him a couple of 3 times, and I think it's fair. I look forward to it.
Well, this is
And
very heady stuff. Like we're dealing
yeah,
with the idea of consciousness, and
hmm
it gets into this whole thing. How do you quantify that, right? And this gets into we talked about was it Blake Lemoine or Lemoine Blake? I forget which is his first name, which is his last name. But the Google engineer that claimed he was talking to a sentient bot, and
right.
part of that is that I think that's how we got the dolphins.
I think so too.
Right, because it was like, the Turing test is basically biased towards humans because we're communicative creatures. We use language, or at least verbal language or
Yeah.
written language, whereas other species may not. You know,
Right.
I don't know. Like, I think the Turing test is incomplete for depending on what your definition of consciousness is, or awareness, or
Yeah.
intelligence.
I mean, the intent is still valid, very valid, and the original question in the context of the day was mind-boggling.
It
Um,
was.
And I think I think we've already been able to do that. We talked about ELIZA
Yep.
a little bit, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't if you had a good enough NLP engine to turn the inflections and accents and pauses, out of ELIZA into spoken language. Yeah, it could pass the, Turing test. So, and then there's been a lot of NLP type stuff the past few years. I'd say 2018, 2019 is when it kind of started picking up again. And I don't know, I don't know that, I don't think it's a bad thing in and of itself, NLP. Like everything though, it can be put to nefarious purposes, and it can be, designed to wound as much as help. So,
Right.
these days it's always a risk. You always run that risk.
I think it's always been a risk. Humans are a great job of weaponizing technology. Like that's kind of what we do. First we discover
Meanwhile-
fire, then we burn
That's
down
true.
people's villages with it. Like
That's true.
it's kind of
Meanwhile, you and I are weaponizing our faults and weaknesses.
works, man. It works. Weaponize that OCD. That's what I say.
That's
Or
it.
ADD. Well, cool.
Very
We've been going on for almost an hour, and
Wow. Doesn't seem like it.
we noticed there's a nice sweet spot of 45 minutes to an hour and change for the show. But this we'll let Bailey finish the show. But I want to do a quick promo for Quantum Beltway. It's this new idea I have. It's related to quantum computing, and since I live in the DC area, it'd be kind of cool to have a forum or some kind of way for technologists, policymakers, and engineers to kind of share that idea. If you go to quantumbeltway.com, you can check that out. It's a free LinkedIn group. Maybe we'll grow it into something else. But here's a little video I made. All right.
Cool.
I was hoping it would take over the full screen, but it didn't. But it's cool. And we actually have a shirt with that symbol on it, that logo on it. So
in the
I have
store.
one in the store. So that's all I got. Thanks for listening. And any last thoughts? Parting thoughts?
No, I can't believe we're in season 6. And
Crazy,
I so
right?
appreciate our audience.
The next one is awesome. It's with Kristen Kerr, who is a bona fide statistician who found her way into data science.
Nice.
Kind of the reverse of the way we did, where we started as coders and then into data. She started as a mathematician and got into coding. And we had a pretty good installation. You couldn't make it, but but that's okay.
Yep.
All right.
Good show.
Awesome. Thanks everyone.